Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
From the MX5 Studios in downtown Jerusalem, it's Louis Live! Now here's your host, me, Ari Louis. All right, I'm back. I'm back, baby. It's good to be back. This is Louis Live at IsraelSportsRadio.com. I'm so excited to be back. I can't even tell you, it's been too long. I had a 2-3 week hiatus. I had some issues with management, which is weird because I am management, so I had some issues with myself. But don't we all have issues with ourselves sometimes, people? It's okay. I'm not going to get too deep on you tonight. We have a jam-packed, great show. This is one of the biggest days in Israel Sports Radio's history, so thank you for being a part of it. Huge guest lineup tonight. David Duby-Pick from Eurobasket. He has some huge basketball news. He's going to talk more about it on the program in about 15 minutes. So we appreciate Doobie's time and him coming on. It's been a couple months since Doobie was on the program. Then, at 5:30 local time, IST, Israel Standard Time, author of Modern Day Maccabees, Andy Gershman. That's right, he's an author, folks. Isn't that cool? And I don't even read books. And my partner's an author, so it doesn't make me feel too good. But he'll probably read the book for me. As long as there's a lot of pictures, then I can be interested. But I have a hard, us. See, except for Danny, my brother, the Lewis's drop IQ points when our head lowers. Like, we don't really read. Most of the Lewis men. It's just the thing, I like books on tape, though. Andy's got to make Modern Day Maccabees into a book on tape. That'd be really cool. When it gets really big, I think this will happen. But Andy also is going to break a big basketball story regarding Gilad Shalit. He attended the All-Star game last weekend, and there's some controversy of how exactly he got there, who invited him, who paid for his flight, who gave him the tickets, all that stuff. So Andy will break that story. He wrote an article on it, and I'm getting some chats, by the way. Speak for myself about not reading. Okay, I personally don't like to read. If the other Lewises like to read, that's fine. But anyway, the point is Andy's going to talk about that story, the Gilad Shalit story, and, of course, his book. He's interviewed a lot of great people already. His just kind of a whole list of celebrities. He's going to have Tamar Katz in there, Shai Daron. He's going to have John Shire, Sean Green. I mean, he just talks to a lot of people already. By the way, if you're having a hard time listening to me, if anything goes in and out, try to open up on Firefox or Internet Explorer. Don't use Internet Chrome, because we've had some issues with that. So try to listen to me the best way you can. So then Andy Gershman's on to 5:30 IST Israel Standard Time, and then at 6 o'clock local time, we'll have Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner. I want to break down the All-Star game with him, the whole issue of LeBron James not taking the final shot against Kobe Bryant and passing the ball off. I just don't understand this guy. This guy has all the physical tools you can want in an athlete. He's 6'8", 260. He is built like a professional football player. He has muscles everywhere. He's fast. He's quick. He jumps high. He's strong. He also has a great IQ for sports. It's not just simply he can move quickly. He knows where to move. He knows where to go on the floor. He's got all the tools. Sean Nathan, host of the Rising Above the Rest show about rugby and cricket, says he's built like a boxer. I mean, he just got all the physical tools you want. And people said at the beginning this is the next Michael Jordan. When LeBron came in, they gave him number 23, and they kept saying, this is the next Michael Jordan, Mike. Well, guess what? He's actually physically better than Michael Jordan. Michael wishes he had LeBron's frame. He wishes he had 6'8" and 260 of muscles. Jordan was about 6'6", 220, and had a very skinny build. He actually had to lift weights to take the pounding from those piston defenders. That was a big secret to his success. He had to put on muscle. LeBron doesn't have to do that. LeBron, I think, had muscles out of the crib. So it's just a whole different ball game as far as body type. And we just have not really seen an athlete of that caliber as far as his build before. And don't forget, 22 years old, he was in the NBA Finals. He's won 2 MVPs. So he's done some great things in the league, but in the clutch, he sucks. I mean, this is just a significant problem. In the NBA Finals last year, I believe Game 4, he had 8 points for the entire game. And Michael, if he had 8 points just in the fourth quarter, people would think something's wrong with him. Michael consistently was great in the clutch. 6 trips to the NBA Finals, 6 victories. Kobe Bryant can't even say that. Right now he's 5-4-7. He's lost twice in the NBA Finals, in 2004 and 2008. And 2004, even with Shaquille O'Neal, the Piston defenders stuffed him up. I mean, you look back, Tayshaun Prince and Hamilton, contained Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's average was about 14 points in the NBA Finals that year, 2004. And Jordan never had an NBA Finals like that. Not only did he have the 6 titles, 6 for 6, he was MVP all 6 times, even though Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen was on the floor, and Dennis Rodman. So the killer instinct, Jordan had it. Kobe hasn't, not as good as Michael, but close. LeBron doesn't have it. And I don't know why. And it's one of the fascinating things in the sports you see from time to time again. Why does an athlete choke under pressure? What mentally happens all of a sudden that physically he has it, physically he can do it, but he can't get it done when the lights are on, when it's pressure, when it's millions and millions of people. He can't do it. Why? A-Rod had the same thing. But people kind of forget, people are giving A-Rod a pass because in 2009, the Yankees won the World Series, but A-Rod still is not good in the clutch, and anything A-Rod did good now, obviously, steroids, that's a whole other issue. I'm going to get to that in a few moments. But just this clutch aspect, mentally, what happens? So we'll talk to Jim Williams about that. There's also a big story going on. Yossi G posted this on my Facebook wall. I do not know all the details, but basically there is a school of Jewish people, Jewish young men, that are refusing to play on Shabbos, and as a result, they lose a trip to the state semifinals. It was in Texas, so it's an Orthodox Jewish day school known the Robert Barron Academy in Houston, and they asked the game to be changed, and they were not accommodated. So, we saw this with Tamir Goodman. Tamir apparently had a scholarship to the University of Maryland, but he told him he was not going to play on Shabbat, and then he kind of lost the scholarship. So this happens time and time again. If you want to be a Shomer Shabbat athlete, boxing apparently is the way to go with the success of Dimitri and Yuri. To be in a team sport is hard. You have to play to all these different rules. Boxer says, hey, I'm fighting tonight, or I'm not fighting tonight. I'm going to fight when I want to fight. We're going to schedule when to do it. The team sports don't obviously have that option. It's hard. It's a difficult thing to be in. Now, we know that there's been a Shomer Shabbat basketball player, Nama Shafir, played for Toledo, was the MVP of a game on Shabbos. She played on Shabbos, but didn't have to break Shabbos to play it. But I guess these kids didn't want to do that, Zach. I don't know all the details. We'll talk to Jim, find out more about it. I will tell you, it's interesting. I'm not actually an expert on halakha, surprisingly enough, but it is interesting of what laws you're technically breaking or not. You can really play basketball on Shabbos if it's indoors, you're not carrying. It's not really a problem. I don't know if it's in the spirit of Shabbos, obviously, but you can do it. Baseball, I was told that the main issue is if you were to rub your foot in the dirt in the batter's box, but then outside of that, it's pretty much okay. Again, I don't know all the details. It might be good to have a rabbi and ask about the halakhas of Shabbos. That might be a good idea for a guest sometime. But anyways, we'll get to Jim Williams about that. And, of course, Peyton Manning. Where's Peyton going? March 8th is the deadline. It's about a week away. Folks, March is tomorrow. Don't get confused because of the leap year. March is tomorrow. Today is February 29th. And it is snowing in the holy city of Jerusalem. Snowing. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I love seeing it come down. When I saw it, I jumped up and smiled and told some friends right away. And then it'll probably go away. But if it continued for weeks and weeks, I would just be upset because then it would be really cold. But it was a beautiful thing to see. It's almost March. It's snowing. It can only happen in Jerusalem. That's what it feels like. Or Phoenix. It happened when you were in Phoenix. So, snowing in Yerushalayim, Shel Zahav, on the 29th of February. Now, Peyton Manning. What do you do with this guy? 35 years old, came off neck surgery, didn't play all of last season. And then you have the number 1 draft pick. Everyone says Andrew Luck is going to be in the league as a star for 10 years. What do you do? What does Peyton do? There's a lot of rumors about him going to the Jets. Some rumors have him going to the Redskins or to the Miami Dolphins or to my Arizona Cardinals. We would love to take him. Peyton Manning plus Larry Fitzgerald would equal a playoff spot. So we love to take him. I don't care if he's 50%. Peyton Manning on the Cardinals equals a playoff spot, even though the 49ers are in the West. So the Cardinals can get Peyton Manning, great. Now, I don't know. Peyton Manning's kind of the southern, laid-back type of personality, but Peyton Manning wants to make money. He is a commercial whore. He advertises and promotes everything. He even hosted an episode of Saturday Night Live. New York gives him more opportunities. I mean, Saturday Night Live is a train. Well, Peyton Manning wouldn't take the train. I think he makes too much money, but a limo. a limo a few miles away. He's in Midtown. He's in the Saturday Night Studios, the NBC studios in Midtown Manhattan, and he could host another episode of Saturday Night Live, and he could do it every, he make guest spots if he lives there. It might be something to think about him being quarterback of the Jets. It'd be a little weird with his brother quarterbacking crosstown rivals, the Giants, but money is probably better in New York. And if the Jets have Peyton Manning, it might be the difference between 8-8 and missing the playoffs and 12-4 and getting a 1 seed. Peyton Manning, even at 50, 60%, is going to be better than Sanchez. I mean, and that's no offense to him. That's no offense to Marky Mark, and Sanchez has some great characteristics. He's won, I think, more road playoff games than any Jets quarterback in history, which doesn't say that much. But he has success in the playoffs. But he's not Peyton Manning. Of course, Peyton Manning doesn't have a lot of success in the playoffs, too. So, hard to say. A couple minutes before we bring on a Doobie pick, I wanted to talk about Pete Rose because he'll be on later on the program. I'm not going to tell you when exactly, folks, so that makes sure you tune in. So, ha, ha, ha. I'm not telling you when Pete Rose comes on exactly because then you might tune me off for some crazy reason. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. Sorry, folks. So Pete Rose will be on, and how does it work exactly with his record really not affected by steroids? Bonds' record, Maris's record, Hank Aaron's record, Maris's record affected by steroids, and then Pete's is not. And I tell you, the steroids just, it's there anytime you think about a record. As it sits now, the Hall of Fame does not have the all-time hit king, the all-time home run leader, and the all-time Cy Young Award winner, Roger Clemens. And I don't know if the voters are going to vote in Roger or Barry Bonds. We know deep down they did it. We don't have exact guilt, but we know they did it. Right? I mean, let's keep it real. And how do you exactly address that? So we'll talk to Pete about the steroid situation in Major League Baseball, get his thoughts about it, and discuss some weird things about the Hall of Fame, if you will. So that'll be later on. But Pete reminds me of old school baseball, the 70s and 80s, old school baseball. He played of course, Pete Rose played 24 years, so he also played the 60s as well. I'm an old school purist baseball man, baseball fan. I like the bunt, the steal, the sacrifice fly, hitting for average, getting a lot of hits, hustling, working a walk. I mean, that's me. I like the chess aspect of it. I mean, I will not lie to you. That's what I like about it. People taking home runs, how about this? I'm going to throw this out. Instead of being mad at the players' union or the commissioner or the players who cheated, let's be mad at ourselves a little bit, fans. We were the ones who went to the ballparks in droves to watch McGwire batting practice and Bonds hit 73 home runs. We would prefer, most of us, not me personally, but most of us would prefer they cheat and hit those home runs than see a clean 2-1 game. So take some responsibility, because you know what? When that whole steroid thing was going on, everyone knew they were cheating. Don't give me that, we didn't. Come on. Sammy Sosa looked like an alien midget. That freaky head. Barry Bonds' head actually grew 3.5 hat sizes. Okay? I don't mean, now Barry Bonds is arrogant, his head obviously grew figuratively, but I'm talking about literally. His head freaking grew literally. We didn't know something was going on. We all knew it. We didn't want to admit to it. We wanted to watch it. Most of us. And there were some, even I as a purist, got some enjoyment of, actually, I'll tell you, I like Barry Bonds, not the 73 home run year, but when he won the batting crown and did it mostly through all his walks. Something about that I kind of liked. Roger Clemens coming back when it looked like his career was dead, winning for the Yankees. There's no parts about that I liked, but I'm a fan of the 91 World Series. Pitching, Jack Morris, Jack Smoltz, Tom Glavine, Steve Avery, Kirby Puckett's home run, which hopefully wasn't juiced when he hit it. That'll be the problem. When we find out home runs were juiced, when we, that are part of our childhood, because it's in our minds Barry Bonds is a juicer, McGwire's a juicer. we have our own thoughts about it. But what if you found out Kirk Gibson juiced? What if you found out about that? How would you feel about that home run? I don't know. We're going to bring on in a few moments David Doobie Pick of Eurobasket. So we're calling through a very special phone line.
Hello?
Hi, is this Doobie Pick?
Hey, Ari, how you doing?
Doing great. You're on Louis Live on the air at IsraelSportsRadio.com, and it's great to have you on. Lots to talk about, and of course you touted all over Facebook that you're going to shock the world with your basketball news. What is the shocking revelations?
It was published yesterday. I reported the news yesterday that Brandon Roy is entertaining the possibility of a comeback to the NBA.
Oh, wow. What do you think?
Yeah.
Is that so? You think that's legitimate, or he's just doing that to get headlines?
No, it's definitely legitimate. I know he's been working out, and he's been looking into all these different medical options and possibility of treatments that he's already been undergoing. And I don't know to what extent when he actually knows he could actually be on the court again competitively, but. Like Jamal Crawford said yesterday, he's been working out ever since the day he retired.
Well, what anything motivate him in particular, a drive, or does he need financial reasons to get back to the NBA? What's motivating him right now?
Well, it's definitely not financial reasons. The guy made over $10 million in the NBA. He's pretty set financially, but it's just the love for the game. When your life revolves around something for so many years, and then it's unfortunately been taken away from you for whatever reason, and you miss it, and you just want to be a part of it again. And he was the best closers ever to play the game, so he obviously misses that, and he wants to experience it again if it's possible.
Speaking with David Doobie Pick of Eurobasket. Doobie, speaking of someone who didn't save their money, even though he made millions and millions of it, Allen Iverson, apparently bankrupt. What happened with AI exactly? We hear some things of gambling. Was that it? Did gambling do in Allen Iverson?
I can't say for sure. I can't put the finger on if it was gambling or something. Maybe also financially supporting his children from his divorced wife. I can't really put the finger and say that's what it was. But, the shocking thing to me about AI's latest situation is that he's been getting offers to play indoor soccer for only $20,000. So all I'm thinking is if these people are paying $20,000 to play, why can't Beitar Jerusalem pick him up and pay him more?
Right, absolutely. Bring him to Israel. We'd love to see him here. I watched that guy play ping pong. I mean, whatever he's going to do, I'm interested.
No, not at all.
So Allen Iverson has the relationship with his ex-wife, and I understand it was a very volatile relationship. There were different incidents where they were kicking each other out naked. One time there was a gun incident, I think in 2003. So kind of the bad marriage also maybe creeping in, like you were talking about, that affected Allen Iverson.
Yeah, a lot of the smartest players surround themselves with good people. The ones who give them the best advice and guide them in the right direction. And I don't really know personally who Allen's surrounding crew was, but whoever it was, the guidance wasn't right, and the lifestyle he adopted as an NBA megastar obviously wasn't the right one. Gun possession is not always legal in the States. And if you're caught with it, then you have to pay the price. And I don't know many people who kick their wife out of the house naked, but Allen was one of them. And all the media hype around it can also take a toll on your mind.
Now, Doobie, you haven't been on the program for a while, and since the last time you've been on, the Jeremy Lin Linsanity taking place, and then there was a lot of kind of backlash that he is only getting a certain amount of pub because of his Asian background. But, hey, his first 4 games, he scored more points in his first 4 games than any other player in NBA history. So how much is it that, hey, it's different because he's Asian, and how much is it because the guy can play?
Well, he definitely can play. I mean, we've been seeing that night in, night out when the Knicks have been playing. Even when they lose, he still gets those good numbers despite one slump against Miami. Everyone, the NBA, the media, we're great at hyping someone when he's up and then killing him when he's down. But Jeremy only had one bad game, over the course of his last 8 or 9. And, he's a rightfully proven all-star, and I'm glad the commissioner found it to let him play and compete. I don't think that the fact that he's Asian has anything really to do with it. We didn't really see that many Asian talents make it lately. There's Yao and then Yijin Liang, but Jeremy Lin is the first, the new era of like a point guard, the backup guards, and not the front court. So that's it. Really, it's an inspiring story, personally. But what burns and what stings a little is that he could have easily been playing with Hapoel Jerusalem or Maccabi Tel Aviv right now.
Oh, is that right?
Because of the offers he received over the summer.
Really? Okay, tell us about that. I did not know that. Now, was it more on Jeremy's part that he didn't want to come here, or did they not pursue him hard enough?
I think they didn't pursue him hard enough. I think at that point with the lockout and Jeremy, his uncertainty, didn't really know where he was going, and then Jerusalem landed a $35,000 monthly offer, and I don't think his agent really bought into that. And then Maccabi gave him a $500,000 offer, but I think they didn't really push hard enough. A, and B, Jeremy still had his hopes of making the NBA, bigger than he did in Golden State. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I can tell you for sure that the teams didn't push hard enough.
All right, I want to move to Dallas, the Mavericks. Lamar Odom apparently not reporting with the Mavericks, and there's some confusion if he's going to stay at the ball club or they're going to buy him out. What do you think is going to happen with Lamar Odom?
Khloe Kardashian's going to be pissed that she has to move for the third time this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so the moving of the Kardashian, yes, that could be. But I know the thing with Odom, with the Lakers last year, it sounded, you get the feeling he didn't really want to leave, and Kobe Bryant certainly didn't want him to leave. So is this kind of like sour grapes? He's just not happy he left Los Angeles, and he's going to sulk no matter where he ends up, if it's outside of Los Angeles?
I don't think he really wanted to leave Los Angeles. I don't think the Mavericks was the right choice for him. His good relationship with Kobe Bryant, I don't know what happens if he does eventually leave the Mavericks, or his motive to leave comes from this Bryant whispering in his ear that, the Lakers might pick him up again if he does succeed to opt out of his contract. So I don't really know where it's coming from or why. You just joined a team 2 months ago. What's in it for you to leave? Like all of a sudden, they're going to make the playoffs. You're going to have a shot at a ring. So, maybe Kobe has something to do with it in the long run. But what NBA teams would you think Lamar Odom could fit? If he does manage to leave the Dallas Mavericks.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we take him in Phoenix. I don't think he's going to want to come to the Valley of the Sun. He might be able to fit in with Miami, believe it or not. Lamar Odom actually used to be with the Miami Heat, so maybe he'd be interested in going back. I don't know. I like your theory. I think Kobe Bryant has a lot to do with this, and I think if they buy him out, he'll figure out a way to jump ship and go to Los Angeles and reunite with number 24. And speaking of Bryant, has the concussion status day today, but Bryant plays with injuries all the time, the broken pinky for a long, long time. Kobe Bryant, this is not going to be anything more than a slight stumbling block, right?
No, this has nothing will affect Bryant's ability to play the game.
Okay, we're speaking with David Doobie Pick of Eurobasket. And Doobie, a couple questions before we let you go. Let's get to LeBron James, because Heat are having a tremendous season. He should win the MVP, most likely to be his third most valuable player award. But then in the All-Star game, Kobe Bryant on him a chance to take a shot and win the game, passes the ball off. So I still am doubting his ability in the clutch, and we saw the NBA Finals really choked under pressure. What is with LeBron James mentally that is causing him to do this?
He might just not have the heart of a champion. You could call yourself, he was called himself the king before he even entered the league. So, the nicknames are great, but if you don't have what it takes down the stretch, mentally, or not even the desire to win, I don't think Kobe would ever pass up a shot, in the closing seconds of the game. I don't think he's ever done that in his career, and it's just a certain mindset that you have. I don't know if LeBron believes in all the hype that he creates around himself. Even Dwayne Wade wouldn't give up that shot. Carmelo Anthony wouldn't give up an opportunity like that. Also, the All-Star, one of the biggest stages in sport events in the world. And he came out, he was firing in the fourth quarter. He nailed 2 threes. He had a finger roll. So, his hot hand was definitely him. And he comes down and, he tries to get it to D Wade, and then, he comes up with a turnover. But what even was surprising more to me is that Tom Thibodeau came out of the timeout, and LeBron was the one passing the ball as opposed to, getting it in the inbounds. And I thought because he was a hot hand, if someone might have passed it to him, he probably could have nailed the three-pointer.
Yeah, so he had passed the ball in 1.1 seconds, so it's not going to be enough time to get it back to him. Let's find a question here. Can the Miami Heat win if LeBron doesn't have the heart of a champion? If he's just a great regular season player, then could Dwayne Wade take over? Will that be enough? Or if LeBron does not somehow change his mindset, the Heat just are not going to be victorious in the NBA Finals?
No, LeBron, I have to make it very clear that LeBron is Dwayne Wade's sidekick and not the other way around. Miami Heat is Dwayne Wade's team, and I think Dwayne learned a lot. He felt it personally this past year in the playoffs and the finals. LeBron's competitiveness in the fourth quarter, and I think Dwayne Wade will up his performances and take a lot more upon himself than he did last year, just because he knows what LeBron is or isn't capable of late down the stretch. I think Dwayne will try and have the ball in his hands when it counts.
Yeah, I think that's the answer for the Miami Heat. All right, that'll wrap up our time. Doobie, thank you so much for being on Louis Live. David Doobie pick from Eurobasket, and we appreciate you breaking that story about Brandon Roy. So interesting to see what will happen if he ends up having a successful run back in the association. Doobie, have a good one out there, man.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, that was David Doobie pick of Eurobasket, and saying Brandon Roy breaking that story. Doobie getting the inside scoop on all of that. So we appreciate Doobie's time. And Doobie hit it right on the head. LeBron James has to be Dwayne Wade's sidekick. That's just the only. They're not going to win an NBA title any other way. Now, with that being said, they can win an NBA title with Dwayne Wade leading the team. If you have a number 2 who is a 3-time MVP, it's not such a bad gig. And it might be the way the Miami Heat got to play it. I think Dwayne Wade, I don't think anything needs to be said. Just in the fourth quarter, Dwayne Wade's taking the shot. Dwayne Wade's carrying the ball up. I mean, it's what he did in 2006. They had some guy named Shaquille O'Neal, who the year before almost won the MVP. Regular season was Shaq's team. NBA Finals, it was Wade's team. And had one of the best NBA Finals performances in history, 2006. Many say it's the best ever. With what he did, how they were able to come back in the fourth quarter in Game 3 against the Mavericks and run off 4 straight. Dwayne Wade was averaging 40 points a game in the NBA Finals. Shaq disappeared, but it was good enough. I think that's what the Heat got to do. The Heat will probably end up having them or Chicago have the best record, the 1 or 2 in the Eastern Conference. But they're prime. Chicago didn't do anything in the offseason to add to their team to now be better than the Miami Heat. Right? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. All right, we're going to dial up now Andrew Gershman, author of Modern Day Maccabees. Have a discussion with Andrew, and it'll be some good stuff to have him back on Louis Live. It's been too long. Andy from the East Coast, also one of his nicknames. So that'll be good to have Andy back on. We'll have to also ask him some questions about LeBron James.
Ari Louis?
Yes, Andrew Gershman, you're on Louis Live. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing awesome.
It is great to have the author of Modern Day Maccabees on the program, Louis Live. Andy, did you ever think that you would become an author? You know I don't like to read, but you personally, did you really think you'd become an author in your lifetime?
Well, that's why I'm writing this as a children's book in hopes that you can read it.
Oh, please. Wait, I brought this up at the top of the program. Will there be pictures?
There will be, I have an artist that will be sketching kind of a black and white picture of each athlete, yes. There will be pictures for you.
Okay, all right. So then I actually might check it out. That'd be kind of interesting. Before we get to your book, I want to get to this Gilad Shalit story. He was at the NBA All-Star Game last weekend, and apparently you have the inside scoop of who exactly brought him, because there was a lot of controversy of who brought Gilad to the NBA game.
Yeah. So apparently, so the story goes that anonymous. I will say anonymous, probably just to me. But anyway, an anonymous request came in to the Memphis Grizzlies to help bring Gilad to the All-Star game. Apparently, we met Chris Wallace in Israel when he was there at Huggle I guess it's been 2 years, the GM of the Memphis Grizzlies. And he had visited with the Shalit tent, and so he was familiar with the situation. And apparently Gilad is a huge basketball fan. And so the request was made, and it kind of went from there. The Grizzlies are downplaying their role in it, but I think they had a lot to do with it. And as well as, can we call him Super Agent Arn Tellem?
Yeah, I think so. I think he has that status.
Super Agent Arn Tellem also was involved in bringing him. But it sounds, the early reports were that, Arn Tellem basically did this. The way I kind of understood it, the Grizzlies had a big, big role in bringing him there.
And that was mostly because of Chris Wallace and the fact that he visited the Gilad Shalit tent when he was here, it sounds like.
Partially that. The owner of the Grizzlies, Mike Heisley, is a big supporter of Israel, a philanthropist who's given a lot of money to Israeli causes. So I'm sure that played into it as well. And, from what I've heard, he went with a friend. I will leave that friend's name anonymous. I now know who the friend is. And what I've heard from the friend is that he had an amazing time, that it was one of those situations where he wasn't nearly as easily recognized as he would be in Israel. So it was kind of his real first taste of freedom, because
right.
He's kind of lived in the bubble ever since he's been back home. So this was really his chance to kind of be a 25-year-old again.
Now, do you happen to know if this was Gilad's first trip to the United States?
I don't. I don't. It was funny. I was discussing it this morning with someone, and it's almost sad to say, would he almost be better off, maybe here for a year and kind of decompressing here. But I don't know if it was his first trip ever. It wouldn't surprise me if it was, to be honest with you.
Because he went in the Army at 18, and a lot of times Israelis don't travel till after the Army, so it very well could have been his first trip.
Right, exactly. Unless he was with his parents on a trip, but his parents didn't speak a lot of English, or they did publicly anyway. So I don't know. I think his father or mother, because he holds, I think, French citizenship as well. And I know he has been to France, but I don't know about the U.S.
How is Gilad looking, feeling? I remember when he was first released, he looked very skinny, a kind of a pale complexion, but obviously, at times he's been at home for a while and eaten properly. I assume he is healthier. Right. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's healthier. I think he, from what I've heard from people who were down there that saw him, that he's still, he's very shell-shocked still about, just being free and being out, and I think he still has a little bit of, that feeling, that kind of, I don't know how to put this in the right way, but I'd almost say kind of that deer in the headlights look, just that everything is still very surprising.
And very new.
Yeah, very new. I mean, I don't think we'll ever know exactly how he was treated. We could all just assume. And so to be, out in public again, especially in an All-Star weekend. I've never been to an All-Star game. I was in New York. It seems like it's been forever ago, probably 15, 16 years ago when they had the All-Star game there, and I was, went to a couple of the events, but I was not there for the game. It's just tons of people around, so I'm sure it was, kind of an interesting experience for them.
Now, I was actually at an All-Star game in New York City 5.5 years ago. That, of course, the WNBA All-Star game, 2006 in Madison Square Garden.
Right, it was you and that one other lady that were there, right?
And we both were wearing Diana Taurasi jerseys. Both had the Arizona lottery on it, so we both looked at each other and recognized we got that from the same game. It was really a cool moment for my life and my whole grand scheme of life, so it was very nice. But back to Gilad Shalit, because it's more important what's going on with Gilad. Now, you met Noam before Gilad was released, and Noam never lost hope or faith. Tell us about that conversation, because you said to him that if next week maybe we could do something, and he said to you, tell us that story.
Right, he said to me, I can't plan that far ahead, that, he may be released tomorrow. And
right.
He never gave up hope. That was last February or March, I believe. And so here we are, a year later, and everything he did, I mean, it all came through. And, of course, we all know that it was very controversial, but, the sense of pride, I think, to have him back home was certainly necessary for the rest of the soldiers serving.
And you were at a dinner with a soldier, and I think the conversation came up, and the soldier said something to the effect, well, I want to know that the government will do what they can to bring me back home.
Right. It was actually a girl that's here doing a year before service, and that was her feeling exactly, was that, she was very glad to see this happen, because she felt like, as she's about to enter, she knows, that hopefully, I mean, God forbid it ever happened, that, basically the country would have her back. It's been told to me by many soldiers that, in Israel, that there's no guarantees when you go in except that you'll come home. And they don't tell you you're going to come home in one piece. They don't tell you you're going to come home alive. They just tell you you're going to come home. And I think that was the one thing that I think, bothered most people, was that, here's this person that, may have not come home, but of course now we know the ending. But yeah, so, look, I think it goes to show, I know you're having Doobie on, I don't know, or have you already had Doobie on?
Yeah, we already had Doobie on.
So, I mean, it just goes to show what an international sport basketball is. Because, Doobie's working Eurobasket and keeping up with all the European leagues and the guys. I mean, J.R. Smith just comes back from China. And, you have all this stuff going on. And, here's a guy, Gilad Shalit, who's a big, apparently most of his signings previously were at Maccabi Tel Aviv games. Who loves basketball. It just, it kind of, as we've said when we went on air at Israel Sports Radio, sports kind of transcends, and, this was another kind of living proof. So, and apparently he went to all the events. I've also heard rumors, and I don't know, I didn't write this, but heard rumors that for months now, I mean, he's been released for 5 months, the Grizzlies have been, supplying him with plenty of Grizzlies paraphernalia and T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So he could be one of the biggest Grizzlies fans outside of Memphis. Yeah.
Huh. That's an interesting twist in the story.
In talking to Chris Wallace, I mean, not to get off the subject too much, but I mean, they're, really excited. Grizzlies are moving up in the standings, and, I think they got some help, had some health issues, and now they're kind of getting healthy. And he was very excited about the rest of the year, which we all saw Memphis make that run. And we believe in the good karma and the bad karma.
That's right.
And I believe that it could just be one of those things. Who knows?
Now, of course, speaking with Andrew Gershman, author of Brotherhood of Warriors. Last thing about Gilad Shalit, I mean, who would have thought a year ago that Gilad would be freed and at the NBA All-Star game? I mean, that just gives you an idea of how crazy this is.
I know. It is crazy because, the story of him being there, it's funny. In the American, I know it got a lot of play in the Israeli press. The American press kind of downplayed it a bit. It's really a huge story when you think about, the fact that he was a prisoner and everything was so uncertain, and it's just amazing. It really is. I mean, you can't even. It's so hard to fathom in modern American history. I mean, you have to go back to the guys like McCain and those guys.
Right.
It's like, it's so hard to fathom, and here we are. I mean, and the whole thing with Gilad is, I mean, he's a kid. I mean, he's so young. He's younger than you.
He is, and John McCain is a great analogy because, he was in the Hanoi Hilton for 5.5 years. But what people forget about John McCain, not that it makes it that much easier, but he was captured in his 30s, as opposed to Gilad Shalit was captured when he was 18, 19 years old.
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting transition. Like I said, from what I heard, this is a huge step towards his really, feeling that he was free, especially because when he went out in Orlando, he really didn't have to worry about, too many people recognizing him. It was funny, a lot of the reports talked about that this was very political, that he was going to meet with people in Washington, and from everything I've been told, that was all fabricated or really kind of exaggerated, I guess would be the better term. But it really, had nothing to do with.
I think he's entitled to a little bit of vacation. He doesn't have to go work and go to Washington, D.C. I think he should get some time off. He deserves it.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
All right, Andy, I want to go to your book because you've already spoke with a lot of famous athletes. Which athlete surprised you the most of all the ones that you've spoken with?
I'm going to say the two athletes that surprised... wow, that's a hard question. I'm going to say three athletes surprised me the most. One, somebody you've talked to before, and that's Eric Nystrom.
Right.
I guess it just always surprises me how down-to-earth hockey guys are, and how they're still millionaires. They're still making a decent salary, even though they call themselves so blue collar. But it's this whole kind of we're just one of you guys. We're just having a good old time on the ice. And he was very interesting. He once again proved that Michigan fans and people who went to Michigan are nuts. And I mean, he was like, if you would have heard him talk about Michigan, he was like, I would do anything for that school. And I mean, he meant it. I spoke to him the day after Michigan beat Michigan State in basketball, and he was just jacked. He's like, I'm like, do you follow? He's like, do I follow it? He's like, of course, I follow the Sugar Bowl. I follow, I mean, he was into it. But, he also, I told you, he mentioned Israel Sports Radio. He understands that being a Jewish athlete is kind of cool and kind of different. There's not many. And so that was pretty interesting to talk to him. I would have to say, and I'm not going to be a homer here, because as you know from my profile picture, I am a Yankees fan now. But Kevin Youkilis, I would say of all the athletes, he got it the most. He understood what the point of the book was the most with his answers. And it just surprised me because, everybody that I've spoken to said, when I said, what advice would you give to kids? They all said, you got to have fun. You got to have fun, And while Euclid made sure to mention having fun with your friends, the first thing he said was, you got to have good grades. If you don't have good grades, you can't play sports. And if you can't play, then you have no chance. And he really placed a big emphasis on education. And he really, and then we talked about his off-the-field work with youth Kids, it's called, his charity. And, what surprised me was he actually used words like mitzvah and used words, and so he got it. He understood, what I was looking for, and he understood what the purpose of, of the book was, and he kind of understood that, there is something that you're taught young as a Jewish, a child, and how to give tzedakah, and how, and they all do, but they all give in their own ways. But, when you kind of change up the wording to make it Jewish, I think it's very impressive. So he was impressive. And then, I guess, if I had to pick one or two, somebody that most people probably haven't heard of, Morgan Pressel, was really impressive. She's ranked, I think, 15th in the world. She's having a tough early go here in the LPGA, but is youngest woman to ever win a major. She was, I think, 18 or 19 years old when she won the major.
Oh, wow.
And, she's being raised by her grandparents. She's now like 20. She's, ripe old age of 23 or something like that, 24.
See, another person younger than me, Andy.
What's that? I know. And she, her uncle was Aaron Crickstein, the professional tennis player. So she's being raised by her grandparents, who are Aaron's parents, which is interesting because now they've raised basically two professional athletes. The other interesting thing is he was the youngest person ever to win a WTA tournament, and she was the youngest to ever win, a major. But what's most impressive is, her mother died. She set up this foundation for breast cancer research and to help underprivileged women in Florida. But, last off-season over, I guess it was in November, December, she led a JNF tour to Israel. And with her sister her sister's a golfer at University of Texas. The two of them went around Israel, and they taught a golfing clinic in Herzliya. And, it was just interesting because she's young, she's, energetic, she's kind of on the rise still, so she was interesting. And then last, I think you said the most, but now I've got up to 4, Jordan Farmar was really interesting because what's interesting is we all heard about these guys, during the lockout going to play in other places. And Farmar, of course, came to Maccabi Tel Aviv. And the most interesting thing about it was that he was so grateful to be playing in Israel. Our conversation was much about, he said it shocked him that people were so happy he was there. And at the same time, that's what he was feeling. Because, his parents were divorced when he was like 3 years old. His mother married an Israeli from Tel Aviv. And he just thought it was an honor to be able to play in his stepfather's hometown. It was very interesting.
So he had an appreciation that a lot of your typical professional athlete doesn't have necessarily.
Exactly, and that's something, a lot of athletes, Shai Doron always used to talk about how difficult it was for Americans to play overseas because they're so used to the comforts. Well, Farmar had been giving camps for the last few years in Israel in the summer, in the off season. And, it was just, I think it's for him, he continued to be surprised that when they went on the road with Maccabi, how many people were, so grateful that he would grace the court with Maccabi, and he really thought of it the other way around. And it was, very interesting. This is a guy who, was a star at UCLA, and I think, Ari, doesn't he have 2 rings?
He does with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Right. So,
so he's a champion. He's an NBA champion.
Right, 2-time champion, and I think he became, remember, who was the guy that we interviewed for Ashkelon? He didn't last very long. The guy who was on the Celtics bench when they won the title a few years back.
Wasn't it Gabe something?
Yeah, what was his name? But he was like the only guy to have a ring to ever play in,
in Israel.
Israel.
Right.
And now that's changed, I think, quite a bit. I think there's a few of them now. But, I mean, Farmar is probably the only one to have 2 rings.
Yeah, that's pretty sure. That's true. So it's interesting because he's an NBA champion, a 2-time NBA champion, but yet he had a certain humility, which not always all the Israeli athletes have sometimes.
He just appreciated, the opportunity. And look, I mean, let's be real. He's an American guy. I mean, from LA, there's not much to complain about when you're in Tel Aviv. I mean, look, for that kind of guy, the nightlife, you're on the beach, the restaurants are good, it's not a bad life. And I think, like I said, he was really just, really happy to be there. I think he was happy for his stepfather. He said he had a lot of family that, in Tel Aviv still, from his stepfather. And I think, he had been there many a time as a kid, so, growing up, he really knew the country, and he felt like, it was just a great atmosphere for him. But it was pretty funny because when I talked to him, he was like driving around doing errands, and I'm like, did he just like drive through the bank or something? Because I could hear people talking.
You think with that much money, he would like pay someone to do that, right? But he likes to do it himself, I guess.
Right. I'm like, what was that deposit like?
Now, speaking of deposits...
Yeah,
no, sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, the point of the book is to bring these stories to life and not do it in like a boring, write a story about the person and move on. It's going to kind of be like, little factoids about the people, about, what they consider their career highlights and what they consider, their greatest accomplishments. But, there's a lot of interesting little things, I think we talked off air about, Euclid went to University of Cincinnati, which, of course, is where Andy Koufax went.
Right.
And, little things like that kind of tie together. But I know, for me, the reason I'm writing this book is because there's a lot of kids out there like my kids that, when I tell them and show them a book of Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax and Mark Spitz, half the pictures are black and white. Half the time they're like, I don't get it, and they can't relate really because it's such a different era. And now, you have guys that, that are modern day guys that are doing it day in and day out. You've got, I've mixed in, let me think about this before. I think I'm going to have 4 Israeli athletes in the book. Kasti, Shachar Per, and Shai Doron, and Yossi Benayoun, the soccer player that plays for Arsenal. So I'm kind of mixing the Israeli with the American players. But, I've been asked, why don't you expand it to rugby and cricket? It's kind of like when we did our show at the other station.
Right. Then all the requests come.
My feeling is if I didn't talk about it in the other station, then it's not going to happen. Because I got to know something about it. So I am having some boxing, of course. Our good friends, Yuri and Dimitri, and but there's going to be some athletes that people are going to go, he's Jewish, really? And so, but yeah, it's exciting and it's interesting to talk to these athletes because some of them, it's just like, yeah, I'm Jewish and move on type of thing. But most of these guys, they all have some sort of, special kind of hook to it, too, as far as being, they're proud. They're proud of their Judaism, and they, that's what I'm looking for.
Andy, we're starting to run out of time. We really should do a 2-hour show together sometime again.
How about, I don't know, July?
Does that work for you? Yeah, I think I'll save a spot for here in the Emmett Grafheim Studios. Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to promote and plug where people can help out with this book. But before I have you do that, we're having Pete Rose in about 40 minutes. Give us your thoughts about Charlie Hustle.
The Charlie Hustle, it's such a travesty to me because I understand that, he gambled, and I understand the ramifications of that. But, I believe, and maybe we had this comment, he might mention something about the other illegal things people have done and how they're going to, get their chance. If Charlie Hustle was a drug addict or an alcoholic, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But because he's a gambler, it certainly, has the stigma that, the U.S. society especially has not wrapped its hands around. But he's just one of the greatest. And to call yourself a Hall of Fame when you don't have Pete Rose and you don't have Shoeless Joe Jackson is just amazing to me, because the selection of a baseball Hall of Famer is so hard. I mean, we've seen guys like Jim Rice that wait and they wait and they wait because of some writer had a quote unquote beef with them.
Right.
And then you've got, other guys in there which are like, all right, but it's just he definitely needs to be in there, and someone needs to finally step up. I, of course, and I'm sure you remember, your good friend Jim Gray when he sabotaged. And,
yeah.
I don't know about sabotage. What would you call that? Just
God. Well, I tell you what. It's his own word. I would say he Jim Grayed it, because Jim Gray had this reputation before Pete Rose. I've seen him personally do that. I mean, he asked, this was after the Pete Rose thing, but for example, when Tyson lost to Lewis, he went up to Mike Tyson and said, "Do you wish you could have fought him in your prime?" I mean, why would you do that? Like, the guy just lost the heavyweight championship. Let him breathe for a second before you bury into him. And in this situation, Pete Rose had that answer, "Jim, why are you doing this to me? Everyone's in a great mood. This is great ovation. You're asking me these questions, bombarded with it." So that was a weird moment in baseball history. But you have a great point about if he was an alcoholic or drug addict, he'd be in. Heck, the guy's record he broke, Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb was basically in the KKK, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's just such a strange thing with sports writers and Major League Baseball. And look, they're going to have some hard decisions to make here moving forward. And the Hall of Fame is certainly, the more the Hall of Fame it comes under question as more athletes, are ready to go. It's just going to be very interesting to see where Pete Rose fits and all that. I mean, I hate to say it, it may happen after he dies. It would be an awful thing. Which to me would be just a travesty of justice, but, I don't know how they're going to rectify this.
I tend to think that's what they'll do as well, and my mom is of the same opinion, that that'll be their way of punishing him, but yet still let him in the Hall of Fame. I think that's what they're going to end up doing.
Right. How old is he now, anyway?
I believe 71.
He's that old. I didn't realize he was that old. Huh.
Yeah, his rookie year was 1963. He actually played against Sandy Koufax.
Wow.
Think about that.
Hey, can I change the subject to one real quick?
Sure.
Chipper Jones, did you hear his comments about steroids the other day?
I did not. What did Larry Jones say? Because that's his real name, Larry.
He said it was very interesting because he made a point. It kind of came after the Braun thing, and I guess someone asked him about steroids, and he's like, you know what? He goes, early on in my career, I was going to take them. He's like, I was all ready to take them. I was ready to go, and he said, and then all of a sudden I started thinking about my kids. He's like, and of course we all know what steroids does to your junk, and.
Right.
He's like, and I realized that one day I'm going to want to have kids, and A, I'm going to want to have them, and B, I don't want to die young, and I just never did it. He said, but I can't say I wasn't jealous of all those guys, that were just like making all this money and hitting, with all these accolades and everything. And he said, and then one day my father came to me and he said, I just have to know, point blank, have you ever taken steroids? And he's like, no. He said, and I can tell you my name will never be attached to it. And his father said, you know what? I just want to tell you that of anything you could do to me, that would be the worst.
Wow.
Like, that would just be the absolute worst if I woke up one day and read your name as part of of this controversy. And he said that, that always stuck with him, of course, but, I think, we all know what happened with Bonds, and his was a big jealousy thing and get spun out of control. And, you've always talked about that. He saw McGuire and Sosa, and just couldn't take it.
Yeah, that was the year in '98. Barry Bonds got to 400 for his career, the first guy to do that and the only guy. And everyone was talking about McGuire and Sosa. He got jealous. And the Bonds thing is one of the more tough subjects to figure out because before he took steroids, he was a Hall of Famer, 3-time MVP in the 400.
Right.
So he's in a weird spot. Same thing with Clemens, by the way. Clemens, 3-time Cy Young Award winner before he took steroids.
Right. It's so strange. These guys are it's going to be so tough. It's not going to be like McGuire and Sosa. But, it's interesting. And this whole Braun thing, it's not going to go away for a long, long time here. It'll be interesting to see his numbers for the year.
Yeah.
Personally, I hope that they hold, but I have a feeling they're not going to hold for one reason, really, and that's because Prince Fielder's not protecting him.
Well, Prince Fielder's not protecting him, and the pressure, because Ryan knows, hey, if I go down, people are going to think that I cheated last year, rightfully or wrongfully, and there's pressure there, too. It's kind of like he has to start over and prove himself. Yeah, it's really something else. We'll talk to Pete about the whole Ryan Braun thing, how that got turned over, and he'll get his award back. All right, Andy, how can people help contribute to Modern Day Maccabees?
So I have what's called a Kickstarter campaign, and they can actually just go on to Google my name, Andrew Gershman, and put Kickstarter next to it. It'll come up as one of their searches. They can pledge to the book on the right-hand column. You'll see a bunch of different things. If you pledge, what you'll receive as a reward, quote-unquote, or gift. And I'd appreciate everybody's support out there. And I look forward to having this book out sometime in hopefully early summer. So that's the goal.
Oh, wow, okay. And with Kickstarter, basically if they donate a certain amount, they could get a copy of a book or get a gift. How does it work exactly?
Right. $25 or more, they get a copy of the book. And then it kind of goes up from there. But pledging starts at $1, and every single dollar helps. And the money is going towards the publishing, towards paying the illustrator, towards the editing, and really just getting the book on the market. And then after I sell millions and millions of copies, my money will then come in.
Oh, nice.
So in my mind, right.
Now, are you going to do book signings as well?
Well, yeah, I'm going to probably do one at the Israel Sports Radio Studios in July.
Nice.
I have to work that out with the management there. And, I'm hopefully going to do the kind of Jewish book tour scene in November. I've got a few people that have already kind of told me that they're interested in hooking me up with some different signings and things. So, hopefully it'll all work out.
All right, great. Modern Day Maccabees is the book. The author, Andrew Gershman. Andy, thank you so much for being on Louis Live tonight.
One last thing. Do you have Jim Williams on today?
He's about to come on, yes. He'll be the next guest.
And he is writing the foreword to the book. So,
right.
7-time Emmy Award winner. What you'll hear right now.
Yeah, and one more thing to let you know, it is snowing today, so it's not a heavy snow yet. I think it'll get a little heavier. So,
wow, it's raining here.
Yes. So, all right, there you go. It's March tomorrow, right. So there you go.
All right, have a good one.
All right, be well.
Have a good week, then.
All right,
be well.
All right, it's Andrew Gershman, author of Modern Day Maccabees, and as he mentioned, the next guest, of course, Jim Williams, 7-time Emmy Award winner, is Jim. We're going to dial him up right now, and again, we appreciate Andy's time here on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great idea for a book because it's true. A lot of times kids, they see the Jewish athletes, and it seems like so long ago, kind of harder to relate. It's good to know that, hey, there's still some Jewish athletes out there. That's a big part of the reason we started the station as well. So it's good stuff to hear from Andy. Dialing up Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner. And when I get a little bit better at this, we'll figure out a way to turn off the rain.
Hello?
Hi, Jim. It's Ari Louis from Israel Sports Radio. You're on Louis Live. How you doing?
I'm fine. It's always a pleasure to be on with you, Ari.
Absolutely, from the Washington Examiner, of course. And we just had Andrew Gershman on, author of Modern Day Maccabees. He was very thankful that you wrote the foreword to that book.
I'm working on it. So, yeah.
It's
a pleasure.
Writing, sorry, not wrote, but writing, yes. So he gave a lot of thanks there. We have a lot to talk about, very short time, because we have Pete Rose coming on in about 20 minutes. But first question, first of all, it's great to have you back on. It's been too long. It's been about a month. But it's great to have you on. And let's talk Peyton Manning, because March 8th is the deadline. What do you think? At the end of the day, he stays with the Colts, or does he potentially go to the Jets or the Redskins or even the Arizona Cardinals?
I think at the end of the day, if they can't work, if he and Irsay cannot work out a deal that's financially beneficial to both sides, that he will likely leave the Colts. I would say if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say there's probably an 85% chance he's going to leave the Colts rather than stay with the Colts.
Wow.
Then there's a very interesting situation, and the interesting situation becomes if he is a free agent at that point. There's going to be a lot of teams interested, but there's also going to be a lot of teams interested in finding out physically, where is he? And I think that there is where the rubber meets the road. It's where Peyton's going to have to allow a bevy of doctors to really come in and speak to the doctors he had, because no one's going to take. I mean, if I'm a general manager or a team owner, and I'm going to invest money in Peyton Manning, he's going to have to take a physical from me.
Well, of course, I mean, that is just something that you got to demand right away. But let's assume that he's physically fine and can play. Maybe not the caliber where he won the 4 MVPs. Financially, let's talk about what is best as far as if he goes to the Jets. Maybe more marketing opportunities in New York City.
He's not going to go to the Jets.
Okay, you don't think he'll go to the Jets. Why
I'll
is
tell
that?
you why.
Okay.
The reason being is, think about it. He would be in his brother's town.
Right, that's right.
And the last thing you want to be if you're Peyton Manning is competing with your brother for the back pages of the the newspapers in New York. It would be counterproductive to the whole, Manning family. It would be disruptive to both he and to Eli. I can't see any way that it makes good sense for him to be in New York.
So in that case, like you said, 85% chance he's leaving Indianapolis. What team then do you think is he going to go to?
Well, look, there's a number of good, I would put him at the top of whoever. I think that you've got the Redskins, you've got the Dolphins, you've got Phoenix, and you've got the Cleveland Browns, all looking for a quarterback. They're all looking right now at Robert Griffin III. So they're looking at weighing, if we lose Robert Griffin III, do we get Peyton Manning, or do we go after Peyton Manning and forego Robert Griffin III? Because Robert Griffin III, now that the Rams have made it clear that they will trade that choice, clearly is going to command a king's ransom. So they'll get it, and who they get it from will be from one of the teams that has chosen that maybe, going after Peyton Manning for us is a better tack to take than going after a young, potentially franchise quarterback like Robert Griffin III. So I could foresee, let's say, a scenario where the Redskins feel they have the draft choices and they want to make the move for Robert Griffin III, at which point in time the Dolphins think, well, maybe, we don't have the pieces to compete with the Browns and the Redskins for Robert Griffin III, so maybe we'll stay back with the Cardinals and the Dolphins to try to sign, Peyton as our quarterback. So the scenarios break down to who feels that their best abilities are to have Robert Griffin III, and do they have the pieces that it's going to take to get Robert Griffin III away from, get that draft choice, or do they not have the pieces to get the draft choice, and would it be easier to sign Peyton Manning?
Now, Robert Griffin III, where exactly, I guess I want to say this the right way, it was kind of Andrew Luck, and then closer, excuse me, in the past couple of months or so, Robert Griffin III has come up, kind of not your typical quarterback, a huge physical specimen and has a great athletic body, not your typical pocket passer, but what are your thoughts as an NFL career, what would happen from Robert Griffin III?
I think Robert Griffin III is a fantastic athlete, and if we found anything out, we found with Cam Newton, and we found with other fantastic athletes that this is a kid who's an extremely bright young man, and he clearly can play in any system that you have. He's 6'2". He's got the arm of a John Elway and the speed of a wide receiver. So you've got a guy there who clearly, when you've got a team who you're seeing back there and saying, you know what, I want a quarterback, and we all are finding out that right now that pocket passers are not necessarily, people who can extend plays are worth a lot at this point in time. So the fact that Robert Griffin III is not necessarily a pocket passer is not a deal breaker. Clearly, what makes Robert Griffin III a asset is three things. One, he's a phenomenal athlete. Two, he's extremely bright. And three, he has no character issues. This is a kid who was brought up in a military family. He is a straight-A student. He has been a straight-A student since the early times of, elementary school. This is a kid who hasn't got a posse. He hasn't got, an agenda. There's never been anything bad written about, this kid. He is a character guy. So you've got the holy grail of an athlete, a character guy, and an incredibly smart guy. He is, if Andrew Luck wasn't in this draft, Robert Griffin III would far and away be the quarterback.
Speaking with Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, I want to go now to the NBA. First, let's start with Lamar Odom, because there are talks that the Mavericks might buy him out, and as mentioned with Doobie Pick, that he might not be happy playing anywhere outside of Los Angeles with Kobe Bryant. Do you think the buyout will happen, and if so, will Lamar then go back to the Lakers?
My understanding is that Mark Cuban is not going to buy out Lamar Odom at the last reports. As we get closer and closer and closer to the trade deadline, it's possible that they might trade him. That Dallas might trade him, but in theory, why would you pay him off or in essence let him out of a contract so he can go play for a team that you're going to be facing in the playoffs?
Right, absolutely.
It really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So if I'm Dallas and I'm getting rid of Lamar Odom, it's going to be via trade, and it's going to be somebody in the East. And if they turn around and flip him to the Lakers, well, then that's just a whole different thing. But if I'm Dallas, I'm either going to hold him and just say, I'm sorry, bud. If you're not going to play, you're not playing anywhere this season. You can go and at the end of the season, apply your trade, and if you want to go to the Lakers, you can go then. But I'm not going to get beat by Lamar Odom in the playoffs. By signing a contract and letting him out. That makes no sense whatsoever.
All right, now let's move on to Jeremy Lin, and kind of not the happiest news or the happy subject to bring up, but I want to talk about it because since it's media related, the horrible ESPN story that said the racial slur towards Jeremy Lin, don't even want to repeat it. You've been in the media business for a long time. Have you ever noticed anything that bad from as big as an organization as ESPN?
Yeah, it happens. I think that the Jeremy Lin headline was written by someone who was in their 20s, okay? The phrase was, if you take away the fact that he's Asian, okay, the phrase is a legitimate phrase. I think that because the young person, the guy who was in his 20s, who wrote it, thought it might be a clever way of doing it. The problem is that there didn't seem to be an editor here. So what happened was this, person posted it out on their mobile system. Nobody vetted it, nobody edited it, and all of a sudden, ESPN is getting, feedback quickly that this is something that is bad, and so ESPN basically fires the kid who wrote it. I think, frankly, that they did a disservice here. I think that what they should have done was fired the editor who didn't edit the piece, number one, and number two, that they didn't take that person back into suspend them with the opportunity to understand just exactly what they did. Because I do not feel that that person understood how inflammatory the piece that they wrote was. Because if they did, they wouldn't do it. Anybody who knows that that's that inflammatory, putting it up there, knows that the next morning they're losing their job.
Right.
If it takes that long.
All right, so interesting. I like that idea.
So I hold the editor who is that person's superior to a much higher standard than I hold the person who literally, doesn't quite understand what they had written in there.
Now, that is the general process of any organization, especially one as big as ESPN. Someone writes it, then you have an editor checks it. Is there then another person who checks on that? Because they were able to take down the story within 30 minutes or so. So what is generally the chain of command with a big news department?
Well, if you have a story, okay, if I put something up, the scary part is I have the flexibility with two news organizations to write something and literally post it within, 5 minutes, and it's out there. That, is something that is both a privilege and a curse at the same time. If you get something wrong and you've posted it, then you have to pull it down real quick and make it right. So you've got the ability to break something quickly, but you also have the ability to make a mistake quickly. My understanding was that the person who posted this posted it to the mobile app, not to the ESPN website specific yet. So it went to the mobile app first, and my understanding is that there was not an editor did not see it until after it had been posted. So the chain of command, if you will, was not followed properly, and therefore, this person was allowed to post something, which in essence got ESPN in some hot water and cost this young man his job.
And financially, what are the ramifications? Are there certain companies that might not buy commercials, advertisements?
No, there's not.
Okay.
There's nothing financially. And I'll tell you, if we're talking silliness here, okay. Look, I think it was egregious. I don't think you certainly do not want to put something like that out. The same week, by the way, Jeremy Lin was popping out of a Chinese fortune cookie in a promo for the MSG network.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
So, I mean, there's a lot of bizarre things going on here that push the buttons of political correctness, and that's why I said in the same week that this kid wrote that headline, the Knicks and Jeremy Lin themselves were denigrating the Chinese population with their questionably politically correct boundary pushing of what they were doing with Jeremy Lin.
Sure,
I think the person on air who did it was far more. That was the person who I might have fired quickly, or much quicker than the 20-something guy who was a copywriter who just threw a headline up there without obviously understanding, what it meant.
All right, let's move to LeBron James in the All-Star game. Has a chance to shoot for the win against Kobe Bryant, passes the ball off, and really written up about it. Questions about his clutch ability in the NBA Finals choked. Will LeBron be able to get this together, or do you just have to say this is Dwayne Wade's team, he'll lead the team in the clutch, and LeBron has to be D. Wade's sidekick?
Yeah, I think that LeBron understands that he can take the shot if he wants, if he acquiesces to Dwayne. Well, then he's very comfortable being a number two guy. I think that he's already had the ability he's proven the ability with Cleveland that he could take the shot. I've seen him do it 100 times. I've seen him in person do it at least 5 times. So he can do it. It's a matter of whether or not A, he's comfortable doing it, or B, does he feel that Dwayne is open? You don't throw it to somebody unless that guy's going to take the shot. I think that when the time comes, and it will, in the playoffs, and the ball is in LeBron James' hands, if he's learned anything from last season in the playoffs, that he better take the shot if he's got the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's open, he needs to take it. I like the idea that you make a great point. People do forget about that he was clutch in Cleveland and was able to make shots, even though he didn't win a championship, was still a very clutch. Last question, Jim, before we let you go. Of course, we're going to get at Pete Rose in a few minutes. Just give us your thoughts about Pete Rose, his status in the game of baseball.
Pete Rose was, without question, the best hitter in baseball, certainly in my generation. I had the pleasure of interviewing Pete probably 25, 30 times over the course of as a player and then later as a manager. I like Pete a lot. I think he is, you're going to find out, your listeners are going to find out, he's one of the most entertaining guys that you're going to meet. He's one of the most straightforward guys you're ever going to meet. Pete Rose is what you see with Pete Rose is what you get. He is a very straightforward guy. I've never had any trouble talking to Pete, interviewing Pete. Pete Rose has more memorabilia than I've been to the Major League. I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's more memorabilia that is Pete Rose memorabilia in the Hall of Fame than a number of people who actually are Hall of Famers. So, for the only thing missing from Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame is the bust. Everything his bats are in there. There's baseballs and there's all kinds of Pete Rose memorabilia in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. So, just to sum it up, Pete Rose made a mistake. It took him a long time to come around to say he made the mistake. But I'll ask you this question. I'll leave your fine listeners with this question. Pete Rose bet on the game. Now, whether or not he never bet as a player. He bet as a manager. The question I have is that any worse than, say, a Darryl Strawberry who played baseball high?
Right.
Or certainly if you're someone who was dealing drugs to some of these guys and knew about it, and you could bet on the game knowing that player that you gave the the drugs too was going to be on. Is it any different? How is it different than the McGuires and the other people who have taken performance-enhancing drugs that are now being shunned? I think that that Pete Rose on field should have been judged on what he did on the field of baseball, not what he did after he was out of baseball and not out of on the bench baseball as a manager. I honestly think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
All right, there we go. So that's the opinion of Jim Williams. And Jim, we got to run, but thank you again so much for being on Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio. It's a pleasure as always.
My pleasure, and I wish you all the best, and I know that Pete will be a great interview, and I'm gonna listen. So enjoy and have a good time, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you again hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. All the best. Be well.
And you as well. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, and we're going to have Pete Rose in about 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes to go to commercial break. Bring on Pete after the break. Big thanks to Raphael Geller. He is the one who set this up. He's amazing. It was incredible that he got this done. So I got to give credit to him. I did not set up this interview. It was Raphael Geller. So thank you to Raphael Geller for setting this up. A quick programming announcement. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. is a doubleheader of Israel Football League action, IFL action. So everyone should listen at 7 p.m. We're going to have 2 games. The first game, I've been told they may switch it, but it should be the Jerusalem Lions versus the Judean Rebels is what I have been told. In the second game, the Kings versus the Hammers. Now, they might switch the order of the games, but the 4 teams are the Tikva Hammers versus the Jerusalem Kings, and the second game, in whichever order they decide, Judean Rebels, Jerusalem Lions. I know it's a little confusing because it's used to one game, but it's a doubleheader tomorrow night on Israel Sports Radio. Listen at 7 p.m. for 2 games. It'll be a nice long night. I'll be broadcasting. My voice will be nice and sore and tired, but it's always a lot of fun. It's at Kraft Family Stadium. Can't make it a Kraft. You can listen to IsraelSportsRadio.com, and our thanks to Israel Sports Network. Again, coming up right now, after this break, the all-time Major League hit king, Pete Rose, brilliant 24-year career, 2,256 hits, just a fabulous record, an amazing accomplishment. If you get a chance, look up all the records he holds, most hits, most games played. He won the batting title, I believe, 3 times, won an MVP. He was on the 2-time World Series winner with the Cincinnati Reds. Accomplished on and on and on. So we're going to have him on. Pete Rose on IsraelSportsRadio.com right after this break. You're listening to Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Proud pleasure and privilege to bring on our next guest. He is baseball's all-time hit king. Please give a warm Louis Live welcome to Pete Rose. Pete, welcome to Israel Sports Radio.
Thank you, and appreciate you having me on. And how you doing? What's going on?
We're doing well, and the fans in Israel love you, and we appreciate the time. And first question I have for you is, the saying, records are meant to be broken. Well, I'll tell you, you have over 4,100 hits. It's kind of hard to believe that record could be broken. My mom certainly doesn't think so. She's a big fan of yours. What do you think? Can your record actually be broken?
Well, I don't think you ever want to say never on a record, but based on how baseball is approached today and how baseball is played, the emphasis is on home runs, and the emphasis is not see how many hits you get for how many years, because the contracts are big and players aren't playing 20 years nowadays. And, in order to break my record, you have to play 21 years to get 200 hits each year,
right,
and they'd still be 56 shy. So, but you never know. Another freak like me might come along in the 2020s or so, something like that. But I think it's kind of safe to say that I'll die as a hit king in my lifetime. And records are made to be broken, but all I can tell you is going to have to take a very consistent, dedicated player to beat my record of 4,256 hits. It's a lot of hits, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, and a lot of games.
So your rookie year in 1963, you were the Rookie of the Year, and you played against Sandy Koufax. Now, Sandy's a legend here in Israel, and I got to ask you, what was it like to play against Sandy Koufax?
Not good. Because my first 2 years in the league, 63 and 64, Sandy actually struck out over 300 guys. And you don't know this, Sandy went to the University of Cincinnati on a basketball scholarship. And when he was at the University of Cincinnati, he couldn't throw a ball inside the batting cage. Then all of a sudden he came up with that curveball, and I can tell you right now, that was the toughest pitcher I ever faced, Sandy Koufax. I think 9 for 59 off of him, which is not good. And most of those hits were after my second year, when I kind of learned a little bit how to hit. But my first 2 years, I had no chance against Sandy Koufax. He was a great player. I had another Jewish roommate of mine. You guys don't know, but at one time, I think he hit 4 home runs in a row and hit a double his fifth time up over a course of a couple games. Art Shansky.
Oh, sure.
My roommate at Cincinnati. He was my roommate at Macon, Georgia, when I was in the minor leagues. He was from St. Louis, and it's another good Jewish ball player I can talk about.
Going to...
You probably forgot about him. You probably forgot about Art Shansky.
Well, I mean, not as famous as Sandy Koufax, but you're right, just a tremendous ball player. And
I don't think there's ever been a player. I mean, I don't care what religion you are or what nationality you are. Sandy Koufax was one of the top 1 or 2 pitchers in the history of baseball over that period of time. It's just a shame that he had some of those elbow problems, because if Sandy was pitching today with all the medication and different medical things they have for arms today, he'd have probably won another 100 games, because they could have kept him around.
Yeah, when people forget about Sandy, he won 3 Cy Youngs, but that was back then when the Cy Young was only given once to the entire major leagues.
Yeah, it was 1 Cy Young for all baseball. Now you have 1 for each for each league. And you're right. You're absolutely right about that. Sandy Koufax, it was kind of fun facing him in this respect, that every time he pitched, there was 52,400 people at Dodger Stadium. But it wasn't fun when you got in the batter's box. It was fun because it was a big crowd, but it wasn't fun when you got in the batter's box because he was such a competitor. And even today, he's a very competitive guy. He's a good-looking guy. He's got real long fingers. You know, his arms and his hands are like a basketball player. And that's why he had such a good curveball. He wrapped that thing and he snapped it off. And he had a great curveball to go along with a 95, 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
So you played against Sandy Koufax. That was a lot of fun. And I understand that you didn't necessarily enjoy facing Nolan Ryan. What was it like facing the Ryan Express?
It was okay because I was kind of an established hitter when I faced Nolan Ryan. I would rather face Nolan Ryan than I would Sandy Koufax, only because I hadn't learned how to hit when I was facing Sandy Koufax. But I got a lot of hits off Nolan Ryan. I probably hit 280, 285 off of him, which wasn't bad. But he threw hard and had a good curveball, too, and he was very competitive. But, you know, all the pitchers you talk about, the Koufaxes and the Drysdales and the Gibsons and the Maryshells and the Carltons and the Sievers, you know, they all had one thing in common. They were very aggressive and they were very competitive, and that's why they're all in the Hall of Fame.
Now, speaking of the Hall of Fame, talking about the Big Red Machine, of course, you played with Johnny Bench, but what a lot of people forget about those teams, and it's sad that they would, but Joe Morgan was a two-time MVP with the Cincinnati Reds. So talk about Joe's contribution to the ball club.
Oh, Joe was a great player. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. No one forgot about Joe Morgan. I mean, Joe Morgan may be the best second baseman in the history of baseball. I mean, that's the kind of accolades he gets around Cincinnati area. When we got him from Houston after the 71 season, but we got him and Geronimo and then Jack Billingham and Dennis Menke all in the same trade, and we sent Lee May and Jimmy Stewart and Tommy Helms down to Houston. But now Joe Morgan, the most intelligent player I ever played with, very, very smart individual, and to be honest with you, I think he'd make a hell of a commissioner of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, he was a tremendous television analyst for the World Series. And I want to actually go to the 75 year because you beat the Red Sox, your team did in the World Series. After Game 6, that famous Carlton Fisk home run, you ran off the field in the dugout. You were apparently very excited. Sparky Anderson was kind of confused, but you were just so happy you played in such a tremendous ball game.
Well, it was the greatest game I ever played in, and I just felt when Carlton Fisk hit that home run, not only the Red Sox players, but the Red Sox fans thought that won the World Series.
Right.
All that did is got them to come out for the next day to play Game 7. And, you know, I had confidence in my teammates, I had confidence in my team, and actually we had a 3-1 deficit in Game 7. But we came back after Bill lead through Perez a blooper pitch and hit the 2-run home run, got us back in the game, and we come back and won that game and evaded the ball game. But, you know, we had a never say die, never quit baseball team. And when you got Hall of Famers everywhere on the field, Hall of Fame manager, you're usually going to come out on top.
And Joe Morgan got that game-winning hit in Game 7, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're right. I tied the game off of Roger Moret, and then I was on first base, and I knocked the guy in from second, and Joe hit that little coil left center, and I went to third, and that put us ahead, and we went on to win that game by 1 run.
Now, talk about some of the modern-day players. I think a guy that's closest to modern-day Pete Rose is Ichiro Suzuki because he plays with such passion, gets a lot of hits every year, focuses more on the hits than a lot of the other players do. What are your thoughts? Is Ichiro the closest thing do we have to a modern-day Pete Rose?
Well, I don't know about that because Ichiro can hit. There's no question about it. But Ichiro's problem is this. If Ichiro's going to be a leadoff hitter, you got to do more than get base hits. You got to get some walks mixed in there. And Ichiro never walks. So, you know, if he doesn't hit, he can help the team as far as being in a position to score runs. And Ichiro's got over 2,200 or 2,300 hits, but he's only got about 300 or 400 walks. Huh. And when you're a leadoff hitter for any kind of a ball club, you got to have an on-base percentage better than 300 or 308 or 309, which you did last year. And you got to be closer to 4 to get the opportunity of the guys sitting behind you to knock in runs. But Ichiro gets a lot of hits. I think he's going to hit third in the lineup this year from what I've read this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how that works because they don't have guys hitting first and second, and it's hard to win anything when you got to beat a guy hitting third is going to hit maybe 8 to 10 home runs, and that's probably all Ichiro's going to hit because he's not going to all of a sudden change his stance this year and say, well, I'm going to hit 25 home runs, about 200 hits. It's not that easy to do that.
Right.
Once he's getting up there in years, he's going to be 38 years old, and to change your style of hitting is very difficult to do at the big league level.
All right, now I want to go to the home run topic. As you mentioned at the beginning of this interview, a lot of guys focusing more on the home runs, not necessarily hitting for average, and a big part of that, at least in the kind of late 90s, earlier part of last decade, the steroid era. Now, when you played hard, you played clean, you played it the right way. What are your thoughts about these guys cheating, in my opinion, and get some of these records that they have no business being a part of?
Well, I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask that question to. Wouldn't it be nice if you could ask it to Roger Maris, or you could ask it to Babe Ruth,
right?
Or you could, Hank Aaron won't talk about it, but those are the guys that are affected by the steroids. If someone ever got 4,257 hits and was linked to steroids, then I'd have a lot of things to say. But one thing you have to understand, I think you do, is that the most sacred thing in baseball is the statistics, going back to 1869. And when you do something that alters the statistics of baseball, it's just not good for the game. Now, I don't know what the punishment should be for guys who take steroids. It's just like this year with this week with Ryan Braun. You know, one arbitrator said he did it, the other two said he didn't. Now, I can't imagine someone taking the urine sample that he provided and bickering with it before he put it in the FedEx. It just doesn't make sense to me. So baseball has that problem they have to deal with, and I don't know if baseball really deals with the steroids. The guys that are mentioned that use steroids, I don't know if they don't do them too much to them penalty-wise. Sure, the press is not going to vote for him for the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about Palmeiro, McGuire. Let's see what happens next year when the Bonds is on the ballot, the Clemens is on the ballot, Sammy Sosa is on the ballot. Those guys will be on the ballot next year. It's going to be interesting to see how the press, which way they decide to go. I mean, because Barry Bonds is a tremendous player. Roger Clemens was a 7-time Cy Young, a tremendous pitcher. So can you imagine those guys not being in the Hall of Fame along with me, the hit king? I mean, what does that do for the Hall of Fame when the guy with the most Cy Youngs, the guy with the most home runs, the guy with the most hits, not in the Hall of Fame? It kind of makes the Hall of Fame, I don't know what it makes it. It takes a little credibility away from the Hall of Fame.
Great point there. Well, let me ask you this. If you were in charge, how would you handle the steroid situation? Would you make...
I don't know. You have to handle it the way the rules are set up. And, I just don't know. I mean, just because these guys make so much money nowadays, if you catch them with steroids, you slap them on the wrist and, like Ramirez, Manny Ramirez. I mean, they slapped him on the wrist and he got caught again. They gave him 51 games. Now he's signed again to play this year. So when you're making $15, $20 million a year, and they give you 51 games, and you have a guaranteed 6, 7, 8 year contract, it's like getting to go on vacation for 50 days.
Right. Absolutely. It's not the most fair thing in the world.
That's the problem. I mean, I don't envy Bud Selig and his staff in that situation with his steroids. It's a tough deal. It's a tough situation with the Players Association to come up with a penalty that fits the crime that these guys are doing, if you want to call it a crime.
We're speaking, of course, with Pete Rose, baseball's all-time hit king. And, Pete, I want to go to that very special moment when you broke Ty Cobb's record. I remember you standing at first base and kind of looking up at heavenward. Tell us the moments, the feelings, what it was like breaking Ty Cobb's record.
Well, it took 9 minutes standing ovation, but when you're at first base and you're getting that kind of ovation, you start to think about people who were really responsible for you being there, couldn't be there because they died. And that was my father, my uncle, my Little League coaches, my high school coaches. They weren't able to be there and celebrate with me, and they were the reason I was there. And that's what brings tears to your eyes. And it took 9 minutes to do that to me. And I'd have to think that that's a little bit similar to being there just to go to the Hall of Fame, because you think about everybody responsible for you being there, and in a lot of cases, most of them aren't there because they've passed on.
Our last couple of questions here before I let you go. Again, your nickname, Charlie Hustle. As I mentioned, you play the game with so much passion. And what I wanted to know, your accomplishment, obviously based on talent, but tremendous work ethic, where do you think the talent and work ethic ratio were? Was it 50-50, 70-30? What do you think was the complete Pete Rose package?
Oh, no, the guys had more talent than me, but one thing I did have that you have to have as a baseball player, I had great hand-eye coordination. You can't hit a baseball 4,000 times doing hand-eye coordination. But I had extra work ethic, I had extra enthusiasm, and I had extra desire. Sure, Clemente had a better arm than me. Hank Aaron had more power than me. Willie Mays could run faster than me. And they had their own deals, too. But I just was a workaholic, and I was a grinder. I guess the best word to describe me is I was a grinder, and I was never satisfied as a player. And I tell people they come in to get my autograph in Las Vegas, I said, 3 things of advice I can give your kid. Be aggressive, be more aggressive, and never be satisfied. And that's not only in baseball, but that's life in general. And I think that's a motto you have to live with.
Great advice there from the old-time hit cane. Now, Pete, last question. Everyone in Israel wants to know, what are you doing currently? I know you're involved with some promotions, but please tell everyone out there what's going on in the life right now.
I'm at a place called Antiquities, which is at the Forum Shops at Caesars in Las Vegas. Antiquities is a memorabilia store, and I sign autographs there about 20 days a month. And all I do all day is just sit and sign autographs and talk baseball and talk positive about the game of baseball. The great fans from all over the world that come to Las Vegas.
All right, great stuff. So anyone who's listening, if you're in Las Vegas, definitely check Pete out, talk some baseball with him, get a couple autographs. And Pete, it was certainly...
And I guess somebody at that station knows Jim McGurney, who I used to work for over at the other store, and he's the one who got me hooked up on his interview. And let's say kudos to Jim McGurney.
Yes, to Jim and Raphael Geller. They both set this up, so we certainly give a lot of appreciation to them. And Pete, anytime for any reason you're in the Holy Land, you're in Israel, please contact us. We would love to meet with you and do this interview in person and talk some baseball here in the Holy Land.
All right, buddy. Have a good day, and thank you very much.
All right, be well, Pete. Have a good one.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
That's going to wrap it up for tonight on Louis Live. Our special thanks to our special guest, David Dewey Pick from Eurobasket.com, Andrew Gershman, author of Modern Day Maccabees, Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, and Major League Baseball all-time hit king Pete Rose. Stay tuned for tomorrow night as we bring to you another episode of Louis Live at 5 p.m. IST Israel Standard Time. That's tomorrow night, but that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.